With just $8,000 saved toward her dream restaurant, Salam Desta is counting down the months until she can bring her siblings to Tokyo, until a single moment of instinct pulls her into the orbit of a man who commands Tokyo's shadows. One warning, one act of protection, and suddenly the most dangerous Yakuza heir in the city is looking at her like she holds the key to something he lost long ago. At 26, Salam Desta had perfected the art of invisible efficiency. She moved through the kitchen at Mizuki with the fluid grace of someone who had spent the last 8 years in professional kitchens, her hands scarred from burns and cuts, her braided hair always pulled back in intricate patterns that kept it away from the flames. The upscale Japanese fusion restaurant in Roppongi attracted Tokyo's elite, politicians and businessmen, and the kind of wealth that ordered omakase menus without asking the price. Salam prepared each course with meticulous attention, her dark fingers moving over pristine white plates, arranging microgreens and edible flowers with an artist's precision. She worked 70 hours a week across 2 jobs. Mizuki 5 nights, a small Ethiopian cafe, in Shinjuku on weekends. Every yen calculated, every expense weighed against the number in her savings account. $8,000. 2 years of brutal work, of sleeping 4 hours a night, of ignoring exhaustion and homesickness. It should have been more, would have been if her youngest sister hadn't needed emergency surgery 3 months ago. 3,000 sent home to Addis Ababa without hesitation, watching her dream defer itself once again. The dream was simple. Her own restaurant, a fusion of Ethiopian and Japanese cuisines, the flavors of her childhood merged with the techniques she had mastered here. Injera topped with miso-glazed vegetables. Doro what with yuzu. Her mother's recipes reimagined through the lens of kaiseki precision. She had the concept, had the recipes tested and perfected. She just needed capital and time and the ability to stop sending money home long enough to save it. But that was impossible when 3 younger siblings depended on her income for university fees, when her mother's salary as a teacher barely covered food and rent, when being the eldest daughter meant carrying everyone else's futures on your shoulders alongside your own. Have any of you ever worked 2 jobs just to keep your family afloat while chasing a dream that feels further away every month? Drop your city or state below. Sometimes the weight of responsibility can feel crushing, but it also gives us a kind of strength others don't understand. Salam wiped down her station, checking the clock. 7:30. The evening rush would start soon, the private dining rooms filling with men in expensive suits conducting business over carefully curated courses. She had learned not to listen, not to watch too closely. Mizuki attracted a certain clientele, the kind who appreciated discretion as much as they appreciated the food. The head chef, Tanaka-san, appeared at her elbow. Private room 3 tonight. He spoke in Japanese, which Salam had learned well enough to function, though her accent still marked her as foreign. The Yamamoto reservation. Salam nodded, keeping her expression neutral even as something cold touched her spine. She had heard the name whispered among the staff. Yamamoto Gumi, one of Tokyo's oldest and most powerful Yakuza syndicates, their influence reaching into construction, entertainment, import operations. The kind of organization that made people speak in careful voices and avoid eye contact. Prepare the omakase personally, Tanaka-san continued. No substitutions. Everything perfect. She understood. This was not a guest to disappoint. An hour later, Salam found herself arranging the first course, watching through the small window that looked from the kitchen into private room 3. The man who sat alone at the low table commanded attention despite his stillness. He was perhaps in his mid-30s, dressed in an expensive dark suit that fit him with the precision of custom tailoring, sharp features that seemed carved from stone, dark eyes that missed nothing as they scanned the room with casual authority. His presence created a weight in the space, something heavy and dangerous that made even the air feel different. 2 men stood near the door, trying to look casual but clearly bodyguards. Their suits concealed weapons poorly, their eyes constantly moving, assessing threats. The guest himself sat with perfect posture, his hands resting on the table, long fingers adorned with a single platinum ring. Everything about him suggested control, power, the kind of man who gave orders and expected immediate obedience. Takara Yamamoto, one of the servers whispered, returning to the kitchen with empty hands. The air, Be very careful. Salam prepared each course with extra attention, her usual precision elevated by awareness of who would consume her work. The sashimi arranged like flower petals, the soup presented in ceramic bowls she had specifically requested, each element of the omakase designed to create a narrative of flavor and texture. She watched through the window as servers brought each course, watching the Yakuza heir's reactions. He ate slowly, deliberately, acknowledging each dish with a slight nod that suggested he understood the craft involved. She was preparing the 7th course when she noticed the new server. Something was wrong. Salam's hands stilled over the plated duck, her eyes focusing on the man approaching Yamamoto's table with a tray. She had never seen him before. That alone wasn't unusual. Mizuki employed a rotating staff for private events. But his shoes were wrong, the soles too thick, not the soft-soled footwear servers used to move quietly. His posture was wrong too, shoulders too tense, weight distributed like someone ready to move quickly rather than the careful balance of someone carrying expensive dishes. And his eyes were focused entirely on Yamamoto, not on the tray he carried, not on the placement of items, not on the professional awareness of surroundings that good servers maintained. Just focused on the target with an intensity that made Salam's stomach clench. The bulge under his jacket, barely visible but present, positioned exactly where a shoulder holster would sit. Her brain processed the information in seconds. Wrong shoes, wrong posture, wrong focus. Weapon, not a server. Assassin. She didn't think. Thinking would have meant hesitation, would have meant questioning her instincts, would have meant watching someone die while she calculated odds. Instead, Salam dropped her tools, pushed through the kitchen door, and walked directly across the dining room, toward Yamamoto's table. The bodyguards noticed her immediately, hands moving toward weapons, but she ignored them. Her eyes locked on Yamamoto's dark gaze, seeing the exact moment he registered her presence, seeing calculation flash across his features. "Stay behind me," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the quiet room as she positioned herself directly between Yamamoto and the approaching fake server, her body a shield despite having no weapon, no training, nothing but the absolute certainty that she was right and someone was about to die if she did nothing. Everything happened fast after that. The fake server's hand moved toward his jacket. The bodyguards drew weapons with fluid speed, shouting in Japanese. Yamamoto remained seated, utterly still, his eyes fixed on Salam with an intensity that should have terrified her. Other diners screamed, scrambling away from the violence about to erupt. The assassin froze, realizing his cover was blown, hand halfway to the gun under his jacket. For one suspended moment, nobody moved. Then the bodyguards were on him, forcing him to the ground with professional brutality, securing his weapon, barking orders into radios. Salam stood there, her heart hammering against her ribs, adrenaline flooding her system now that the immediate threat had passed. Her hands started shaking, the delayed fear catching up to her instant reaction. She had just stepped between a Yakuza heir and an assassin with nothing but her body. The insanity of that action crashed over her in waves. "You saw him before my own security did," Yamamoto said quietly, still seated, still watching her with those dark, calculating eyes. His voice was smooth, controlled, carrying an edge that suggested danger even in calm observation. Salam turned to face him, forcing her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. His shoes were wrong. Wrong soles for a server. His posture was wrong. And he was watching you, not the tray. His jacket had a bulge here. She gestured to her own shoulder, demonstrating the holster position. The bodyguards were hauling the assassin away, speaking rapidly into phones, the restaurant descending into controlled chaos as management tried to handle the situation. But Yamamoto's attention never left Salam, studying her face like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. "What is your name?" he asked, the question phrased as a command despite the courteous words. "Salam Desta," she replied, meeting his gaze directly despite every instinct screaming to look away from the predator in expensive clothing. She had learned early in life that showing fear invited more of it. "You are observant, Salam Desta," he stated, rising from his seat with fluid grace, his height and presence suddenly overwhelming in proximity. "Most people see what they expect to see. You saw what was actually there." "It is my job to notice details," she said, Surprised, her voice came out steady. In the kitchen, one wrong ingredient, one contamination, one moment of inattention can poison someone. I learned to watch for things that do not belong. A slight smile touched his lips, the first warmth she had seen in his controlled expression. You saved my life tonight. That is not a small thing. Salam started, then stopped, unsure what to say. I could not watch someone die when I saw the threat. Could not, he repeated, as if testing the words. Or would not. Both, she admitted. Yamamoto's dark eyes held hers for a long moment, something shifting in his expression, calculation giving way to what might have been respect. My security chief will want to speak with you. For now, return to your work. But this conversation is not finished, Salam Desta. He gestured dismissal, turning to confer with his bodyguards, speaking rapid Japanese too quick for her to follow. Salam returned to the kitchen on shaking legs, her heart still racing, her mind trying to process what had just happened. Tanaka-san stared at her, pale and wide-eyed. You just saved Yamamoto Takara's life. I just did what anyone would do, she said, though she knew that was a lie. Nobody else had seen the threat. Nobody else had moved. Just her. That night, she finished her shift in a daze, preparing courses mechanically, her mind replaying the moment over and over. The weight of Yamamoto's gaze. The absolute certainty of her instinct. The feeling of standing between danger and its target with nothing but conviction. She did not know it yet, but that single moment had changed everything. The trajectory of her careful plans, her calculated future, her quiet, invisible life. All of it shifted the instant she said, "Stay behind me," to the most dangerous man in Tokyo. And when she left through the back entrance 3 hours later, exhausted and ready to collapse, she found an envelope waiting on her locker. Heavy paper, expensive. Inside, a business card with embossed Japanese characters she recognized as Yamamoto, and a handwritten note in precise English. People who see clearly are rare. I do not forget debts. We will speak again soon. No signature. None needed. Salam held the card, feeling the weight of quality paper, the implied promise in those simple words. She should throw it away. This stranger, this dangerous man who radiated violence despite his controlled demeanor, getting involved with someone like that would be beyond stupid. But she slipped the card into her pocket anyway, some part of her already understanding that the choice had been made the moment she stepped forward instead of staying safe behind her kitchen counter. 3 days passed before Salam understood the full weight of what she had done. The first sign came during her morning shift at the Ethiopian cafe in Shinjuku. A man in a dark suit stood across the street, watching the entrance with the patient stillness of someone paid to observe. When she left 4 hours later, a different man had taken his position. Neither approached, neither threatened. They simply watched. The second sign came when Tanaka-san pulled her aside at Mizuki, his expression carefully neutral. There have been inquiries about you. Very thorough inquiries. Background, employment history, family in Ethiopia, financial situation. Everything. He paused, meeting her eyes. The Yamamoto Gumi does not make casual inquiries, Destazan. Whatever happened 3 nights ago, it has their full attention. Salam's stomach tightened. She had hoped the incident would fade, that Yamamoto would consider the debt paid with his polite note and move on. Apparently, that was naive. The third sign came at the end of her shift that night, when she found an envelope in her locker. Thick, expensive paper. No markings. Inside, a cashier's check made out to her name for $50,000, and a note in the same precise handwriting as before. To replace what you sent home. Your family's needs should not deplete your dreams. Consider this the first payment of a debt I intend to honor fully. Salam stared at the check, her hands trembling. $50,000. More money than she had ever seen in one place. More than 2 years of brutal 70-hour weeks. Enough to fully fund her restaurant with capital left over. Enough to stop the constant calculation of every yen, the endless weight of making rent and family obligations, and dream chasing somehow coexist. She should return it. She should refuse this money from a Yakuza heir, should understand that accepting it meant accepting obligations she could not begin to imagine. But the check felt substantial in her hands, and she thought of her sister who had dropped out of university last year because the fees were impossible, who worked in a factory now instead of studying engineering. She thought of her brother's last email, carefully cheerful, not mentioning that he was skipping meals to afford textbooks. She thought of her mother's exhausted voice on their weekly calls, the weight of supporting 3 children alone for 14 years audible in every word. Salam folded the check carefully and placed it in her wallet, some part of her understanding that this simple action had consequences she could not yet see. The fourth sign came 2 nights later, when the black Mercedes pulled up outside Mizuki precisely as her shift ended. The driver stepped out, professional and courteous. "Yamamoto-san requests a meeting, if you are willing." He opened the rear door, the interior all leather and dark wood and the scent of expensive cologne. No pressure in his voice, no threat, but they both knew she would get in the car. Salam climbed into the back seat, her heart hammering against her ribs, telling herself she could still say no, could still walk away from whatever this was becoming. The drive took 20 minutes, winding through Tokyo's exclusive western districts where walls hid estates and security cameras tracked every approach. The Mercedes passed through gates that opened at their approach, up a private drive lined with perfectly manicured gardens, pulling to a stop before a massive structure that blended traditional Japanese architecture with modern security infrastructure. The Yamamoto estate was a fortress disguised as a palace. High walls topped with subtle security measures, guards positioned at strategic points trying to look like gardeners and maintenance staff, cameras everywhere covering every angle. The main house was traditional in design, all dark wood and elegant lines, but the windows were bulletproof and the doors reinforced steel beneath the decorative panels. The driver opened her door. "Yamamoto-san is waiting in his private office. Follow me, please." Salam followed through entrance halls that smelled of cedar and history, past rooms decorated with priceless art and antique furniture, everything speaking of wealth accumulated over generations. Staff moved quietly through the spaces, acknowledging the driver with small bows, their eyes sliding over Salam with professional discretion that suggested they had learned not to question who entered these halls. The office was on the second floor, overlooking gardens lit by subtle landscape lighting that made the space look like something from a painting. Traditional but minimal, every element carefully chosen, nothing excessive or showy. A low table, floor cushions, calligraphy scrolls on the walls, and Takara Yamamoto standing by the window in expensive casual clothing that somehow made him look more dangerous than the formal suit had. He turned as she entered, those dark eyes finding hers immediately. "Salam Desta. Thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" she asked, keeping her voice level despite the fear trying to claw up her throat. "Always," he replied simply. "The invitation was genuine. You could have refused. And the men watching me for 3 days? The investigation into my background? The check I did not ask for?" A slight smile touched his lips. "I needed to understand who you are. What drives you? Whether your instinct in the restaurant was aberration or pattern. Whether you could be trusted. And what did you learn?" she asked, though part of her did not want to know what this man had discovered about her life, her struggles, her desperate calculations. "That you have worked 2 jobs for 6 years to support 3 siblings in Addis Ababa, while pursuing a culinary career in a country where you are foreign and alone," he stated, moving to sit at the low table, gesturing for her to join him. "That you send home an average of $1,500 monthly despite earning barely enough to cover your own expenses. That you have debt from your sister's medical emergency, but you paid it without hesitation. That every chef you have worked under speaks of your skill, your work ethic, your integrity. That you are trusted with keys and inventory and money, and have never stolen a single yen." Salam sat across from him, feeling exposed, every private struggle laid bare before this stranger. "You had no right to investigate me." "I had every right," he corrected gently. "You saved my life. That creates connection, obligation. I do not take such things lightly. I needed to know who holds my life in their memory." "What do you want from me?" she asked directly, tired of dancing around the purpose of this meeting. Yamamoto leaned forward slightly, his gaze intense. "I want to offer you a position. My private chef, here at the estate. $200,000 per year, paid monthly. Private apartment on the grounds, fully furnished. An additional $100,000 annually sent directly to your family in Ethiopia. Full security for you and for them. Your siblings can come to Tokyo with complete education funding at any university they choose." Salam's breath caught. 200,000. The number was obscene, impossible, more than she would make in 5 years of brutal double shifts. Her family fully supported, her siblings' futures secured, her mother freed from the grinding poverty that had defined their lives since her father's death. Why? She managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Why me? I am just a chef. You could hire anyone. You are not just a chef, Yamamoto said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. You are someone who sees threats that trained security misses. You are someone who acts without hesitation when others freeze. You are someone who protected a stranger at risk to yourself, expecting nothing in return. Those qualities are rare, Salam Desta. I need them close to me. You need a bodyguard, she countered. I am not qualified for that. I have bodyguards, he replied. Dozens of them, highly trained, extremely capable. But they see threats they are trained to recognize. You see differently. You notice what does not belong, what feels wrong, the small details that betray intention. My mother had that gift. She is dead because I did not listen when she said something felt off. The pain in those last words was carefully controlled but present, a glimpse of humanity beneath the dangerous exterior. So I am here to notice things, Salam said slowly, trying to understand the shape of this offer. To cook for you and watch for threats. You are here to be close enough to see what others miss, he confirmed. To cook, yes. I need to eat food that is not poisoned. But more than that, I need someone observant near me, someone I can trust. You proved your integrity. The check I sent, you could have cashed it and disappeared. Instead, you are here, questioning, evaluating. That tells me you can be trusted with more. What are the terms? She asked, though part of her already knew this was a cage being offered, gilded and comfortable, but still a cage. What do you expect in exchange for this money? Yamamoto's expression became more serious, business overtaking the brief moment of vulnerability. You will live on the estate grounds. You cannot leave without security detail. Your movements will be monitored for your protection. Absolute loyalty is required. You will see things, know things, understand aspects of my business that are dangerous to know. Silence is mandatory. Betrayal would result in consequences I will not detail, but you can imagine. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. In exchange, you receive safety and wealth. Your family in Ethiopia becomes untouchable under Yamamoto protection. No debt, no poverty, no danger. Your siblings' futures are secured. Your dream of opening a restaurant receives full funding when you are ready. You will never again have to choose between eating and sending money home. You will never again work yourself to exhaustion just to survive. And if I refuse, Salam asked, though she already knew the answer. Then you walk out of here tonight with the 50,000 I already gave you. No obligations, no strings, Yamamoto said calmly. You return to Mizuki, to your double shifts, to your exhausting calculations. You remain safe, untouched by my world. But you remain struggling. This is not really a choice, she said quietly. It is always a choice, he corrected. But some choices are between bad options and worse ones. I am offering you the option that includes security and resources. What you do with that is yours to decide. Salam looked at him, this dangerous man offering her everything she needed wrapped in terms that terrified her. She thought of her sister in the factory, her brother skipping meals, her mother's exhaustion, the $8,000 she had saved that felt so inadequate against the weight of their needs. She thought of the assassination attempt, the casual violence of that moment, the understanding that Yamamoto's world included death and danger as normal operating conditions. She thought of her dream restaurant, always deferred, always secondary to immediate survival. How much time do I have to decide? She asked. 24 hours, he replied. After that, the offer expires. Salam stood, her legs steadier than she expected. I need to think. Yamamoto rose as well, inclining his head slightly. The driver will take you home. My number is on the card I gave you. Call with your answer. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. Why are you being so transparent about the terms? You could have hidden the danger, made it sound better than it is. Because I need you to choose this knowing what it means, he said simply. Loyalty built on deception is worthless. I need you to walk in with open eyes, accepting all of it. Only then can I trust you completely. Salam nodded, understanding despite herself, and left the office with her mind spinning. The drive home took forever and no time at all. She sat in the back of the Mercedes, staring at nothing, her thoughts churning through options and implications, and the sheer weight of the decision before her. $200,000 a year. Her family saved. Her dream funded. All of it hers for the price of entering a world of violence and living under constant surveillance in service to a man who commanded shadows. That night, she lay in her tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. She pulled out her phone, looking at the last email from her brother. Cheerful, supportive, carefully not mentioning that he was working nights to afford food. She thought of her mother's voice, the bone-deep exhaustion of 14 years carrying everything alone. She thought of herself, 6 years of grinding work, of exhaustion so complete it felt like drowning, of dreams perpetually deferred. She looked at Yamamoto's business card on her nightstand, expensive paper with embossed characters, a phone number that could change everything. Salam picked up her phone and typed a single message to the number on the card. "I accept, Mr. Yamamoto." The response came within 30 seconds. "Good. A car will collect you and your belongings tomorrow at 6 p.m. Welcome to the Yamamoto estate, Salam Desta." She set the phone down, her heart racing, her hands trembling slightly, understanding she had just traded one kind of cage for another. But at least this cage came with resources and safety and the chance to finally stop drowning. At least this cage meant her family would finally be free. Have you ever had to make an impossible choice where every option felt wrong, but one at least offered hope? Tell us about it below. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that change everything. 2 weeks after moving into the Yamamoto estate, Salam woke to birdsong and the scent of cherry blossoms drifting through her open window. Her apartment was more beautiful than anywhere she had ever lived. A private structure near the main house, traditional Japanese design with modern amenities, 2 rooms plus a full kitchen and bathroom, tatami mats in the bedroom, a low futon that had taken her several nights to adjust to, shoji screens that filtered morning light into soft patterns. The kitchen was professional grade, anything she requested appearing within hours, her spice collection already triple what she had owned in her previous life. Previous life, that was how she had started thinking of it. The exhaustion, the double shifts, the constant calculation of money. It felt like something that had happened to someone else, not her current reality of waking naturally, preparing meals for a single employer, spending afternoons experimenting with fusion recipes in a kitchen that cost more than her family's house in Addis Ababa. The monitoring was subtle but present. Cameras covered the grounds. Guards rotated on regular schedules. Her movements tracked through security protocols she was only beginning to understand. But within those boundaries, she had freedom. Her own space, her own time between meal preparations, access to the estate's extensive gardens and library. And the money. The first payment had hit her account exactly as promised. $16,600 for half a month's work. She had stared at the number, unable to process it, then immediately transferred $12,000 to her mother with instructions to pay her brother's university fees in full and buy her sister a plane ticket home from the factory job. Her mother's call had come an hour later, sobbing, unable to form words, just crying with relief so profound it broke something in Salam's chest. Now, she rose and prepared for her day, pulling her braids back, dressing in comfortable work clothes, and heading to the main house kitchen. The routine had established itself quickly. Breakfast at 6, served in Takara's private dining room. Traditional Japanese breakfast was his preference, miso soup and grilled fish and rice with pickled vegetables. But he had requested Ethiopian coffee prepared her way. The ceremony of roasting and grinding and brewing something he watched with quiet attention every morning. Lunch at noon, usually lighter, often eaten during meetings. Dinner at 7, more elaborate, the meal where she truly showcased her skill, blending techniques and flavors, testing his palate with new combinations. He ate with focused attention, acknowledging each dish with a slight nod, occasionally asking about ingredients or preparation. His compliments were rare but genuine, his criticism constructive and showing real understanding of culinary technique. He respected her craft, treated her expertise as valuable, never dismissed her as merely staff. That respect was unexpected. She had braced for arrogance, for the casual cruelty of someone with absolute power. Instead, she found careful courtesy, precise communication, genuine interest in her work. This morning, she prepared his breakfast with practiced efficiency, the movements meditative now, no longer strange. The kitchen staff had learned to give her space during his meal times, understanding she preferred to handle his food personally. Trust, but also caution. She tasted everything before it left the kitchen, a habit she had developed instinctively, understanding that someone in Takara's position faced poisoning as a constant threat. She carried the tray to his dining room, finding him already seated, dressed in a charcoal suit despite the early hour, reading something on his tablet with that intense focus he brought to everything. "Good morning," she said in Japanese, her accent still obvious but improving. He looked up, something shifting in his expression when he saw her. "Good morning, Salam." He used her first name now, the formality of their first meetings gradually dissolving into something more personal. She set out the dishes, pouring his coffee last, the rich Ethiopian aroma filling the room. He closed his tablet, giving the meal his full attention, a ritual she had come to appreciate. No distractions, no phones, just the food and the quiet morning. "Your Japanese is improving," he observed after his first sip of coffee. "I listen to language lessons while I cook," she admitted. It seemed foolish to live in Tokyo and not speak properly. "Practical," he corrected. "You apply that practicality to everything. I have noticed." She did not know how to respond to that, so she simply inclined her head and began to leave. "Stay," he said quietly. "Have coffee with me." Salam hesitated, uncertain of the boundaries, but his expression held no command, just invitation. She poured herself coffee and sat at the appropriate distance, the small table between them maintaining respectful space. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee as morning light filtered through the shoji screens. It was peaceful in a way Salam had not experienced in years. This simple, quiet moment without pressure or urgency. "You barely sleep," she said suddenly, then froze, realizing the presumption of the observation. Takara's eyebrow lifted slightly. "How do you know?" "You come to the kitchen at 4 in the morning," she replied. "I hear you walking the grounds at 2. The staff mention you are often in your office all night." "Observant as always," he said, a slight smile touching his lips. "Sleep is difficult when threats come from every direction." "Is it always like this?" she asked. "The danger, the constant vigilance." "Always," he confirmed. "Since I was 16 and learned that relaxation is what kills you." My mother relaxed her guard, trusted that security was sufficient. She was wrong. The pain in those words was carefully controlled but present. Salam recognized grief when she heard it, had carried enough of her own after her father's death. "How long ago?" she asked gently. 18 years, he replied. "I was 16 when the car bomb killed her. She pushed me clear, shielded me with her body. I survived. She did not." "I am sorry," Salam said quietly, meaning it. She noticed something wrong that day, Takara continued, staring at his coffee. Said the security rotation felt off, that someone was asking too many questions. I dismissed her concerns, thought she was being paranoid. I was focused on learning the business, proving myself to my father, becoming worthy of this legacy. I did not listen. 2 days later, she was dead. He looked up, meeting Salam's eyes. "That is why I need people who see clearly near me. Why I trust your instincts over trained security. You notice what others miss, just like she did. I will not make the mistake of dismissing that gift again." Salam understood then, the shape of his need, the wound that drove his obsession with observation and protection. She was not just a chef. She was a second chance to listen, to see, to prevent the loss that still haunted him. Over the following days, something shifted between them. Small moments accumulated into connection. Takara asked about her family, seemed genuinely interested when she shared stories of her siblings, her mother, her childhood in Addis Ababa. He told her about the business, explaining operations with surprising openness, treating her as someone capable of understanding complexity. She noticed everything. The way tension tightened his shoulders during certain phone calls. The visitors who made the entire household nervous, guards going to high alert when specific cars approached. The meetings that ran late, his expression harder when they concluded, evidence of difficult negotiations or worse. She learned the rhythm of his world. Mornings were administrative, managing legitimate businesses and reviewing reports. Afternoons brought meetings, some clearly legal, others suggesting the shadow operations that funded everything. Evenings were his, reading or walking the gardens. occasionally inviting her to join him for tea and conversation that felt almost normal, almost like friendship. One night, she found herself in the kitchen at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, making Doro what from memory, her mother's recipe exact. The scent filled the kitchen, nostalgia and homesickness combined into something almost painful. "That smells incredible." Takara's voice came from the doorway, startling her. He stood there in casual clothes, hair slightly disheveled, looking more human than she had ever seen him, the dangerous edge softened by exhaustion and the late hour. "Could not sleep either?" she asked. He shook his head, moving into the kitchen with easy familiarity. "What are you making?" "Doro what?" she replied. "Ethiopian chicken stew. My mother's recipe. I was homesick. May I try it?" She ladled some into a bowl, tearing fresh injera to accompany it, watching as he took his first bite. His expression shifted, surprised pleasure replacing his usual controlled neutrality. "This is exceptional," he said quietly. "The complexity of flavors, the Berbera spice blend, the way everything balances. Your mother taught you this." "When I was 8, Salam confirmed. "After my father died, cooking became how we connected, how she kept us together. Food was language when grief made words impossible." Takara sat at the kitchen counter, eating slowly, savoring each bite. "My mother used to cook," he said after a long silence. "Not elaborate meals, just simple things. Onigiri, tamagoyaki, comfort food. After long, difficult days, she would make tea and whatever small dish felt right, and we would sit together in the kitchen just like this." He looked around the professional kitchen, clearly seeing different space, different time. "I have not felt that peace since she died," he admitted. "Until now. Until you. This feels like her kitchen, like safety." Salam's chest tightened at the vulnerability in those words. This dangerous man revealing the lost child beneath. "Then we will do this," she said gently. "When neither of us can sleep, we will come to the kitchen, and I will cook, and you will sit, and we will remember that there is more to life than survival." He met her eyes, something shifting in his expression, walls cracking just enough to let light through. "I would like that." They sat together until dawn, talking about nothing important, about everything that mattered, about family and loss and the weight of responsibility. And somewhere in those quiet hours, Salam realized she no longer feared him. She trusted him, cared for him, saw the human beneath the Yakuza air. The second test came a week later, during a formal dinner Takara hosted for business associates. The dining room was set with expensive china and crystal, the meal an elaborate kaiseki that Salam had spent 2 days preparing. 8 guests, all men, all clearly important in various ways. Salam served courses with practiced elegance, observing from the edges, noting interactions. One guest bothered her. Everything about him felt slightly wrong, small discrepancies accumulating into unease. He spoke Japanese with a Tokyo accent, but used phrases slightly formal for the context, like someone who learned the language academically rather than natively. His questions about the estate were too specific, asking about security rotations and guard schedules under the guise of admiration. He watched the entry points more than the other guests, his eyes cataloging exits and approaches. And when Takara mentioned a recent business challenge, the guest's interest sharpened in a way that felt predatory, like information gathering rather than polite conversation. Salam caught Takara's eye as she served the next course, giving a subtle head shake toward the problematic guest. Takara's expression did not change, but she saw understanding flash in his dark eyes, saw his attention shift to observe what she had noticed. The dinner concluded an hour later, Takara making polite excuses to end the evening earlier than planned. The guests departed, but she noticed additional security detaining the man she had flagged, escorting him away separately. Later, Takara found her in the kitchen, cleaning up from the elaborate meal. "The man you identified was intelligence operative from a rival syndicate," he said without preamble. "Sent to gather information on our security protocols and business operations. He had credentials good enough to fool initial screening, but you saw through the performance." "His accent was wrong," Salam replied. "Too formal. And he was too interested in things guests do not normally notice." Takara moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the quiet kitchen. "You just prevented a major intelligence breach. Again, how do you see these things, Salam? What do you notice that everyone else misses?" I grew up watching for threats, she admitted. Our neighborhood in Addis Ababa was not safe. I had to keep my siblings protected, had to notice when situations felt wrong. That instinct never left. I see patterns, deviations. People who do not fit the environment they claim to belong to. My mother had that same gift, Takara said quietly. She could read people, see truth beneath performance. I ignored it, and she died. I will not make that mistake with you. Your observations are worth more than any security system I could buy. He reached out, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder, the touch warm and grounding. Thank you, he said simply, for seeing clearly, for keeping me safe. Salam looked up at him. This powerful, dangerous man trusting her completely, and felt something shift in her chest, something beyond gratitude or professional respect, something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. You are welcome, she managed, her voice steadier than her racing heart. Over the following weeks, Salam found herself integrated into aspects of Takara's operations she had never expected. Guards asked her opinion on new hires, whether someone felt trustworthy. Takara consulted her during security meetings, valuing her read on people and situations. She was becoming essential, her presence woven into the fabric of his daily life. And somewhere in the routine of meals and conversations and quiet kitchen moments at 2 in the morning, she realized she was no longer just his chef or his observer. She was becoming his partner in ways neither of them had planned, her value proven not through submission but through competence, her place earned through the same instincts that had saved his life that first night at Mizuki. The compound felt less like a cage each day, more like the first real home she had known since leaving Ethiopia. And Takara felt less like an employer, less like a dangerous stranger, more like someone she was beginning to understand she could not imagine living without. That realization should have terrified her. Instead, it felt inevitable, like recognizing something that had been true from the moment she stepped forward and said, "Stay behind me." The evening Takara showed Salam his mother's photograph was quiet, the kind of peaceful stillness that made the estate feel almost normal, almost safe. He had invited her to the private garden, a space she had only glimpsed from windows, walled and secure with cherry trees and a small koi pond that reflected the evening sky. She found him sitting on a stone bench, a bottle of expensive whiskey and 2 glasses on the small table beside him, his expression distant in a way that suggested he was seeing something other than the beautiful garden. "Join me," he said quietly as she approached, gesturing to the space beside him. Salam sat, accepting the glass of whiskey he poured, the amber liquid catching the fading light. They sat in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the gentle movement of water and distant evening birds. "I want to tell you about my mother," Takara said finally, his voice carrying a vulnerability she had rarely heard. Not just how she died, but who she was. Why her loss still defines everything I do. He pulled out his phone, showing Salam a photograph. A beautiful Japanese woman in her 30s, elegant in a simple dress, sitting at a piano with a smile that radiated warmth and intelligence. Her eyes held the same observant quality Salam had seen in Takara, but softened with kindness. "Yuki Yamamoto," he said softly. "She was not born into this world. She was a classical pianist, performed at concert halls across Japan. My father heard her play and fell completely in love, pursued her relentlessly despite her understanding of what his family was, what accepting him would mean." "Did she love him?" Salam asked gently. "Deeply," Takara replied. "She chose this life knowing its darkness, adapted to it with grace I still do not fully understand. She learned to navigate Yakuza politics, to host gatherings with dangerous men, to smile and serve tea while understanding every word spoken was weighted with threat. But she never lost herself. She kept playing piano, kept her gentleness, kept seeing the world clearly." He paused, taking a long drink of whiskey. "I was her only child. She protected me from the worst of it, tried to give me normal childhood moments between the violence and business. She taught me to see people, not just their utility, to notice details, to read truth beneath performance. She said that survival in this world required understanding who people really were, not who they pretended to be." Salam listened, understanding beginning to form about why her own observational skills mattered so much to him. "When I was 16, I thought I knew everything," Takara continued, his voice hardening slightly. "I was learning the business, eager to prove myself to my father and the organization. I wanted power, respect, feared nothing. My mother worried, said I was moving too fast, trusting the wrong people. I dismissed her concerns as maternal paranoia. His hands tightened on the glass. She noticed patterns in our security rotations. Guards being changed at unusual times. New people appearing without proper vetting. Questions being asked that felt too specific. She told my father something was wrong, that someone inside was compromised. He investigated but found nothing obvious. Told her she was worrying unnecessarily. Takara set down his glass, staring at the koi pond with eyes that saw a different scene entirely. 2 days later, we left for a family dinner at a restaurant in Ginza. My mother insisted on taking separate cars, said she felt uneasy about the main vehicle. I thought she was being ridiculous, paranoid. I refused to ride with her, wanting to appear strong, independent. So she rode alone in the second car. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The bomb was in the main vehicle, placed there by a guard we had trusted for 5 years. It was supposed to kill my father and me, eliminate the succession line. But because my mother insisted on the separate cars and I refused to listen, I was in the main vehicle when it detonated in the restaurant parking structure. Salam's breath caught, understanding the full horror of what he was describing. She saw me thrown from the car, saw the flames. Takara continued, his voice hollow. She ran toward the burning vehicle, pulled me clear even though I could walk, used her body to shield me from the secondary explosion. Shrapnel hit her instead of me. She bled out in my arms before the ambulance arrived. A single tear tracked down his face, the first emotion breaking through his controlled exterior. Her last words were, "I told you something was wrong. Promise me you will listen next time. Promise me, Takara." And I promised. I have spent 18 years trying to honor that promise, trying to see clearly, trying to listen when instinct says danger. But I failed her. I ignored her warnings, and she died protecting my arrogant, foolish life. Salam reached out without thinking, taking his hand, the gesture instinctive. "I am so sorry," she said quietly, inadequate words for such profound loss. Takara looked at their joined hands, seeming surprised by the contact, but not pulling away. "That is why you matter, Salam. Why when you said stay behind me, something in me recognized what I had lost. You see threats like she did. You act without hesitation like she did. You have her gift, and this time I am listening. This time I will not be arrogant enough to dismiss clear sight. You are not responsible for her death," Salam said firmly. "The bomber was responsible. The guard who betrayed you was responsible. You were 16 and trusting. That is not a crime. I know that here." Takara touched his head. "But here," he touched his chest. "I carry the weight of knowing I could have prevented it if I had just listened." Salam understood that guilt had carried her own version since her father's death. She shared her story then, telling him about being 12 when her father died in a construction accident, how she had known the site was unsafe, had begged him not to go that day because something felt wrong, how he had dismissed her child's intuition and died when scaffolding collapsed. "I raised my siblings after that," she said quietly. "Learned to trust my instincts because ignoring them had cost me my father. Every threat I spotted, every danger I steered them away from, was me trying to honor him by keeping his other children safe." "We are the same," Takara said, looking at her with new understanding. "Both shaped by loss, both carrying the weight of promises made to the dead, both trying to see clearly enough to prevent the next tragedy." They sat together in the darkening garden, two people bound by grief and responsibility, understanding each other in ways neither had expected. "Yes," Salam agreed softly. "We are the same." The next several days brought changes Salam could feel, but not quite articulate. Takara's meetings ran longer, his expression harder when they concluded. Guards doubled their rotations, security protocols tightened. The estate's atmosphere shifted from careful vigilance to active tension. Salam noticed unusual activity. Cars she did not recognize conducting surveillance from the street beyond the walls. Guard rotations changing at odd hours, additional security brought in from outside. Takara spending hours in secure communications, his voice carrying the cold edge she had learned meant serious threat. She overheard fragments of conversations. Sato clan making aggressive moves. Someone feeding them information about our operations. Timeline accelerating, they are preparing something major. One afternoon, she noticed a guard she had never seen before on the perimeter rotation. Young, efficient-looking, but something about his positioning felt wrong. He was watching the main house too intently, his eyes tracking movements through windows rather than watching external approaches. She reported it to Takara immediately. He investigated personally, discovered the guard was a plant, hired through compromise channels. The man was detained and questioned, revealing that Sato clan had been probing the estate's defenses for weeks, testing response times, mapping guard positions. They are preparing an assault, Takara told Salam that evening, his voice grim. The Sato syndicate wants to eliminate me and take over our territories. They have been planning this for months, and we just discovered it. What will you do? Salam asked, fear tightening her chest. Secure the estate, prepare our people, and wait for them to make their move, he replied. Then end them permanently. How dangerous is this? She pressed. Very, he admitted. They will come with numbers and planning. Some of my people will die. I might die. Salam's blood ran cold at those words. Then you should leave. Go somewhere safe until this is over. Takara's dark eyes held hers. I do not run, and I will not leave you vulnerable. You stay close to me, where I can protect you. The attack came 3 mornings later, sudden and overwhelming. Salam was in the kitchen preparing breakfast when the explosion shattered the morning quiet. The compound's outer wall erupted in fire and debris, alarms screaming into life, the peaceful estate transforming instantly into a war zone. Takara burst into the kitchen, 2 guards flanking him, weapons drawn. Stay with me, he commanded, his voice carrying absolute authority. Gunfire erupted outside, the sharp crack of rifles and the deeper boom of shotguns. Salam's heart hammered against her ribs, terror flooding her system, but she stayed close to Takara as he moved through the house with military precision, coordinating defense through rapid commands in Japanese. They took position in a secure room with reinforced walls and multiple monitor screens showing the compound. Salam watched in horror as attackers in black tactical gear breached the damaged wall, at least 20 men pouring through with professional coordination. Takara's guards engaged them with disciplined fire, the estate erupting into chaos. Explosions, gunfire, shouting in Japanese and commands barked through radios. Takara directed the defense with cold efficiency, redirecting guards, calling for reinforcements, his face a mask of controlled fury. Salam noticed movement on one monitor that the guards had missed. Attackers approaching through the east garden, a blind spot in the current defense positioning. There, she said urgently, pointing. East garden approach, 5 men. Takara's eyes snapped to the monitor, saw what she saw, barked orders redirecting guards to intercept. The ambush was prevented, attackers caught in crossfire and neutralized. The battle lasted 20 brutal minutes. Salam stayed glued to the monitors, watching for threats, reporting anything that looked wrong. Takara kept one hand on her shoulder throughout, grounding contact that said, I know you are terrified, and I will keep you safe. Finally, the shooting stopped. The attackers who survived retreated, leaving bodies and burning vehicles. Takara's guards secured the perimeter, medical teams rushing to treat wounded defenders. Takara's hand on Salam's shoulder tightened. It is over. For now. Salam's composure shattered. Her hands trembled violently, her breath coming in gasps, the delayed shock of violence hitting her all at once. I was terrified, she managed. I have never been so scared in my life. Takara turned her to face him, his hands cupping her face with surprising gentleness. But you stayed. You could have hidden, could have frozen in fear, but you stayed beside me and helped me see what I could not. You saved my guards' lives with that observation. I could not leave you, Salam whispered. I could not watch you face that alone. Something shifted in his expression, intensity replacing control, walls crumbling completely. I am ending this today, he said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. Sato clan will be eliminated entirely. What I am about to do is not legal, not clean, not something I am proud of. If you want to leave, I will arrange safe transport immediately, your family still protected, money still yours. But if you stay, you accept all of this darkness, all of me. Salam met his eyes, understanding the choice he was offering, the escape route he was providing despite the chaos. I stay, she said firmly. Not for money, not for safety. I stay because you are mine now and I protect what is mine. Takara's breath caught. Say that again. You are mine, Salam repeated, stronger this time. I chose you. I choose this. I am not leaving. You are mine, Takara said, pulling her closer, his voice rough with emotion. Not my employee, not my chef. Mine. My partner, my equal in this darkness. Say you understand that. I understand, Salam breathed. And you are mine. Broken pieces and all. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate and tender all at once. And Salam kissed him back with equal intensity, both of them understanding that something fundamental had shifted, that the professional arrangement had transformed into something far more dangerous and real. Forever, Takara murmured against her lips. I am keeping you forever. Forever, Salam agreed, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The compound transformed in the hours after the attack. Guards doubled, triple-checked every entrance, weapons visible now where before they had been concealed. Medical teams treated wounded defenders in a makeshift infirmary. Damage assessment crews photographed destroyed sections of wall. The peaceful estate had become an armed fortress, all pretense of normalcy stripped away. Salam watched Takara coordinate the response with cold precision. He moved through the compound like a general commanding troops, his voice carrying absolute authority, every gesture conveying certainty. He met with his captains in rapid succession, conversations in Japanese too fast for her to follow, but his body language told the story. Planning, strategy, retribution. She understood what was coming. He was not simply defending anymore. He was preparing to attack. That evening, he found her in her apartment, still shaken, trying to process the violence she had witnessed. He sat beside her, taking her hands in his touch grounding. I am mobilizing everything tonight, he said quietly. Full organizational resources, every captain, every soldier. The Sato clan will cease to exist by morning. Their leadership will be eliminated, their operations dismantled, their territories absorbed or destroyed. This will be permanent and complete. Salam searched his face, seeing the cold determination there, the transformation from the gentle man who kept her company in the kitchen to the Yakuza heir capable of orchestrating mass violence. How many will die? She asked, though part of her did not want to know. Enough that no one will ever threaten what is mine again, he replied. I am not proud of this necessity, Salam. But I will not risk losing you the way I lost my mother. I will not wait for the next attack, the next bomb, the next moment of weakness that costs me everything. What do you need from me? She said softly. Wait for me, Takara said, his voice carrying unexpected vulnerability. Trust that I will come back. Know that everything I do tonight is to secure your safety, your future, our future together. I will wait, she promised. Come back to me. He kissed her, tender and desperate, then left without looking back. The waiting was agony. Salam tried to cook, to keep her hands busy, but nothing helped. She paced her apartment, watching the clock creep forward with impossible slowness. Guards remained on high alert, the compound locked down, everyone waiting for news. Around midnight, she heard distant sounds. Sirens, multiple emergency vehicles racing through Tokyo's streets. Helicopter rotors chopping through the night sky. The organized chaos of law enforcement responding to something major. She turned on the television, flipping to news channels. Breaking reports of coordinated police raids across Tokyo, dozens of locations hit simultaneously. Suspected organized crime properties, mass arrests, evidence of weapons trafficking and illegal gambling and money laundering. The reporters spoke breathlessly about the largest Yakuza crackdown in decades. Salam understood then the brilliance and brutality of Takara's approach. He was not just attacking the Sato clan with Yakuza soldiers. He was orchestrating their legal destruction, feeding evidence to police, ensuring that survivors faced prosecution, eliminating them through both violence and law. It was terrifying in its efficiency, and it meant Takara had resources and connections far beyond what she had imagined, the ability to coordinate police action alongside criminal elimination. Hours crawled past. 1 in the morning. 2. 3. No word. No updates. Just waiting and fear and the understanding that the man she loved was out there doing terrible things in her name. She made coffee she could not drink. Sat in her kitchen remembering quiet mornings with him, his rare smiles, his careful respect for her craft. Tried to reconcile that man with the one currently eliminating an entire organization. Finally, near dawn, she heard vehicles approaching. Guards calling out clearances, gates opening. She ran to her window, saw black SUVs pulling through, Takara emerging from the lead vehicle. He was still in his dark suit, but rumpled now. Tie loosened, jacket dusty. There was a faint metallic scent clinging to him that she recognized as blood and gunpowder. His face was harder than she had ever seen it, eyes carrying the weight of violence committed, but they softened immediately when he saw her waiting. Salam met him outside her apartment, unable to maintain distance, needing to confirm he was alive and whole. "Is it done?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is done," Takara confirmed, his voice carrying exhaustion and grim satisfaction. Sato leadership is eliminated. Their organization is fractured beyond any possibility of recovery. Evidence has been delivered to prosecutors, ensuring legal destruction of survivors. No retaliation is possible. "You are safe now." "At what cost?" Salam asked, searching his face for the toll this had taken. "Less than you might think," he said quietly. "More than I wanted. But necessary. Always necessary in this world." He swayed slightly, exhaustion and adrenaline crash hitting him simultaneously. Salam guided him inside, made him sit, brought water and a warm cloth to clean his hands. She noticed blood on his cuff that he had missed, did not ask whose it was, simply cleaned it away with gentle efficiency. "You killed people tonight," she said, not accusation but acknowledgement. "Yes," Takara confirmed, not hiding from it. "Multiple people. Some by my own hand, others by my order. I destroyed families, ended lives, created orphans and widows. I am a monster, Salam. That is the truth you need to accept if you stay." Salam looked at this man, this dangerous, beautiful, broken man who had killed to protect her, and felt something settle in her chest. "You are not a monster," she said firmly. "You are a man who protects fiercely what you love. You are shaped by this world, by your mother's death, by the understanding that mercy is weakness when threats are real. I do not need you to be clean or soft or innocent. I need you to be exactly who you are." She took his face in her hands, making him meet her eyes. "I love you," she said clearly, not despite the darkness, but including it. "Because the darkness serves a purpose, protects what needs protecting. You killed for me tonight. That should horrify me. Instead, I feel safe. I feel cherished. I feel like finally someone understands that protection sometimes requires violence." Takara's breath caught, his controlled exterior cracking completely. "You love me. I love you," Salam repeated. "Every complicated, dangerous, tender part of you. I choose this. I choose you." He pulled her close, burying his face in her shoulder, and she felt dampness against her skin, realized he was crying silently. 18 years of grief and guilt and loneliness finally breaking through. "I am a monster," he repeated, his voice muffled. "I have done terrible things. I will do more terrible things to keep you safe. That is what loving me means." "Then I love a monster," Salam said, holding him tighter. "And the monster loves me. That is enough." They stayed like that as dawn broke. Two people who had found each other in darkness, who understood that love was not always pretty or clean, that sometimes it was fierce and protective and willing to destroy threats without hesitation. When Takara finally pulled back, his eyes were red but clear, his expression settled in a way she had never seen. "Marry me," he said, the words carrying absolute certainty. Salam's heart stuttered. "What?" "Marry me," Takara repeated, taking her hands. "I want you officially, legally, permanently. Not my employee, not my chef, not even just my lover. My wife, my partner, my equal. I want the world to know you are mine and I am yours. I want to build a life with you that honors both our pasts while creating something new." He spoke faster, words tumbling out with rare lack of control. "Traditional ceremony, your family flown here, anything you want. The organization becomes yours to inherit, your family becomes mine to protect. Your dreams I fund without question. I will give you the restaurant you dreamed of, support whatever you want to build. I will honor your strength by never limiting it. I will trust your sight by always listening. I will love you by ensuring you never again have to choose between dreams and survival." Salam felt tears tracking down her face, overwhelmed by the enormity of what he was offering. "You want to marry me," she repeated, needing to hear it again. "I need to marry you," Takara corrected. "I need to bind you to me in every way possible, need to make permanent what we have built. You saved me, Salam. Long before you protected me in that restaurant. You saved me by showing me that trust is possible, that someone can see all of me and choose to stay. I cannot lose that. I cannot lose you. Yes, Salam said, the answer immediate and certain. Yes, I will marry you. Takara stood, pulled her up, kissed her with desperate intensity and profound tenderness combined. Forever, he murmured against her lips. You are mine forever. And you are mine, Salam breathed back. Forever. They stood together as morning light filtered through the windows, two people forged by loss and responsibility, bound by recognition and choice, transformed by love that accepted darkness as part of the whole. The next weeks blurred together in planning and preparation. Takara moved with characteristic efficiency, arranging everything with the same precision he brought to eliminating threats. Salam's family received plane tickets and visas, her mother's tears of joy audible even over the phone connection. Her siblings' excitement at seeing her again, at meeting the man who had transformed their lives with his resources and protection. Takara consulted her on every detail, making clear this was their wedding, not his production. Did she want traditional Ethiopian Orthodox ceremony? Shinto wedding? Both. She chose both, honoring her heritage and his, blending cultures the way she blended cuisines. He presented her with an engagement ring, a stunning piece that combined Ethiopian opal with Japanese platinum, unique and beautiful. And he presented documents showing he had purchased a property in Ginza, prime Tokyo real estate, along with architectural plans for her dream restaurant. This is yours, he said firmly when she protested the extravagance. Not mine, not ours. Yours. Build your dream exactly as you envision it. I am simply providing the security and capital. Why? She asked, overwhelmed by his generosity. Because I need you to have purpose beyond me, Takara replied. I need you to build and create and thrive, not just survive in my shadow. You are extraordinary, Salam. The world deserves to taste your vision. And you deserve to create freely, knowing safety and resources will never again limit you. 3 months after the night she accepted his proposal, they married in dual ceremonies that honored both their worlds. The Ethiopian Orthodox ceremony came first. Salam in traditional white shama with intricate gold embroidery her mother had sewn by hand. Takara in cultural dress that he wore with surprising grace. Her family wept throughout, her mother holding Takara's hands afterward and blessing him in Amharic, thanking him for saving her daughter, for seeing Salam's worth. The Shinto ceremony followed the next day, elaborate and traditional, Salam in Shiramuku white kimono, Takara in formal black matsuki. His organization attended, powerful dangerous men showing unexpected respect for this union, understanding that their leader had found something rare. Vows were exchanged in Japanese and Amharic, promises made in 2 languages but one heart. You are my shield, Takara said in Japanese, his voice carrying across the assembled guests. You are my home, Salam responded in Amharic, the translation whispered through the crowd. Rings were exchanged, platinum bands that matched the engagement ring, symbols of permanence and choice and love built on clear sight and acceptance. Afterward, celebration merged Ethiopian and Japanese traditions, injera and sushi served side by side, Takara's world and Salam's family finding unexpected harmony. Her youngest sister approached Salam during the reception, eyes wide. You found someone who sees your strength, not your struggle, she said. Who built you up instead of making you small. I want that someday. You will have it, Salam promised. Because I will ensure you have the education and resources and safety to choose freely, the way I could not until Takara. Takara found them talking, slipped his arm around Salam's waist with easy affection. Your sister was just saying she wants what we have, Salam told him. Then she will have it, Takara said simply. Any man who wants to court a woman under Yamamoto protection will be thoroughly vetted, I assure you. Salam laughed, the sound free and genuine. You cannot investigate every man who looks at my sisters. Watch me, Takara replied with a slight smile, and she knew he absolutely would. That night, finally alone in their private quarters, Salam reflected on the journey from desperate chef to Yakuza wife. What are you thinking? Takara asked, finding her by the window overlooking Tokyo. About how one moment changed everything, she said. One instinct to step forward instead of staying safe. How that brought me here, to you, to this life. You saved me before I saved you, Takara said, pulling her close. You gave me back the ability to trust clear sight, to value instinct over training. You made me human again after 18 years of being only dangerous. We saved each other, Salam corrected. You gave me safety and resources. I gave you trust and sight. Together, we are complete. Together, Takara agreed, kissing her softly. Forever. And standing there in their home, wife to Tokyo's most dangerous man, Salam Desta felt something she had not experienced in years. Peace. Security. The absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged, with exactly who she was meant to be with, having chosen darkness with open eyes and found light within it. 6 months into marriage, Salam stood in the kitchen of Addis Moon and felt something she had stopped believing was possible. Pure joy. The restaurant occupied prime space in Ginza, all glass and warm wood, and Ethiopian textiles blended with Japanese minimalism. The kitchen was a dream made real, professional equipment beyond what she had imagined, space designed exactly to her specifications, every tool and ingredient available at her request. Addis Moon had opened 3 months ago to immediate acclaim. Food critics praised the audacious fusion, injera topped with miso-glazed vegetables, doro what with yuzu, kitfo prepared with wagyu beef, and served alongside perfectly seasoned rice. Her mother's recipes reimagined through kaiseki precision, Ethiopian soul meeting Japanese technique. Reservations filled weeks in advance. Food journalists wrote features about the Ethiopian chef married to powerful businessman, though they carefully avoided mentioning Takara's true occupation. Tokyo's elite came to experience her vision, and Salam fed them with the same care she had once brought to Mizuki, but now with creative freedom and resources unlimited. She worked 3 days a week, Tuesday through Thursday, running the kitchen with focused intensity. The other 4 days were hers, spent at the compound with Takara, cooking for him not as employee but as wife. The dynamic transformed completely. Her sous chef, a talented young Japanese woman named Akari, approached with the evening's reservations list. Full house tonight, Yamamoto-san. Including a table of 8 requesting the omakase with Ethiopian coffee ceremony. Salam smiled, the title still feeling strange and wonderful. Yamamoto-san. Wife of Takara Yamamoto, her identity bound to his in ways that felt right despite how impossible it would have seemed a year ago. Perfect, she said in Japanese, her accent much improved though still present. Prepare the ceremonial coffee service. I will handle it personally. Her Japanese had developed rapidly, living with Takara, conversing daily, being integrated into his world. He was learning Amharic in return, stumbling through phrases with endearing determination, asking her to teach him her mother's blessings and her father's sayings. They were learning each other in every way, languages and histories, and the shape of building a life together. That evening, after service concluded and the last satisfied customer departed, Salam returned to the compound. The estate had been fully repaired, the damaged walls rebuilt stronger, security upgraded but subtle again, the fortress appearing as peaceful palace. Guards bowed as she passed, calling her Okuzan with deep respect. She had earned their loyalty not through marriage alone, but through her continued vigilance, her observations during meetings preventing 2 additional security breaches in the past months. They trusted her sight, valued her presence, understood she was more than decorative wife. She was partner, equal, integral to operations. She found Takara in his office, reviewing reports, his expression focused but softening immediately when she entered. How was service? He asked, setting aside his work to give her full attention. Beautiful, she replied, moving to his side. A family from Addis Ababa came, said they had heard about the Ethiopian chef in Tokyo. They wept during the coffee ceremony, said it reminded them of home. Takara pulled her onto his lap, rare public affection that he allowed in private spaces. You give people home in a foreign city. That is a gift beyond cooking. You gave me home first, Salam reminded him, kissing him softly. Everything I build comes from the safety you provided. We build together, he corrected. Your restaurant, my organization, our life. All of it shared. Over the past months, Salam had been gradually integrated into aspects of the organization she never expected. Takara consulted her during security meetings, trusting her read on people. She sat in on negotiations with business partners, her observations of body language and microexpressions helping him navigate complex dealings. Guards brought potential new hires to her first, valuing her assessment of trustworthiness. She was becoming what his mother had been, the observant heart of the organization, the one who saw clearly when others were blinded by expectation or hierarchy. Her family had thrived under Yamamoto protection. Her mother lived in a beautiful apartment near the compound, visiting weekly, her exhaustion replaced with peace. Her brother excelled at Waseda University, studying engineering with full funding. Her middle sister had returned from the factory to university, pursuing medicine. Her youngest sister attended high school in Tokyo, already fluent in Japanese, already dreaming of international business. They gathered for family dinners every Sunday, Ethiopian food and Japanese dishes side by side, her mother and Takara conversing in careful broken phrases, mutual respect transcending language barriers. Takara had given her everything: safety, resources, family security, dream realization, partnership, love that accepted all of her, including the parts shaped by poverty and responsibility. And she had given him trust, clear sight, the ability to believe in loyalty again, love that accepted his darkness as necessary rather than shameful. They completed each other in ways neither had anticipated when she first said, "Stay behind me." That night, they sat together in their private quarters overlooking Tokyo, the city sprawling below in lights and movement. Millions of lives lived in ignorance of the power structures that governed them. "What are you thinking?" Takara asked, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. "About how impossible this would have seemed a year ago," Salam admitted. "I walked into that kitchen exhausted and desperate, with $8,000 saved and impossible dreams. Now I have everything I imagined and more." "You earned it," he said firmly. "Every moment, every observation, every act of trust. This life is not gift, it is consequence of your choices and capabilities." Salam's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, the gesture small but noticed. Takara's breath caught. "Are you?" he started, not finishing the question. "Yes," Salam confirmed quietly. 2 months along. I wanted to be certain before telling you." His hand covered hers on her stomach, large and warm and protective. "A child," he breathed, wonder and fear combined in those words. "Our child," Salam corrected, "who will inherit this empire, but also have choices we did not. Who will know both Ethiopian and Japanese heritage, will understand protection and power, but also kindness and clear sight." Takara turned her to face him, his dark eyes bright with emotion. "I want to give our child what my mother tried to give me. Safety, yes, but also humanity. The understanding that power serves purpose beyond itself. We will," Salam promised. "Together, we will raise someone who sees clearly, acts bravely, protects fiercely, but never loses sight of what makes life worth living." They sat together planning the future, discussing how to protect their child while allowing freedom, how to teach strength without hardness, how to honor both their pasts while building something new. "What will we teach first?" Takara asked, his hand still resting on her stomach. "To notice what does not belong," Salam said with a slight smile. "To trust instinct. To act when others freeze. Like mother, like child," he replied, kissing her temple. "And like father," Salam added. "To protect what is precious. To value loyalty. To build legacy that outlasts us." The weeks that followed brought changes both subtle and profound. Takara became even more protective, his security measures extending to her restaurant, to her family, to every aspect of their expanding life. But he also became softer, more openly affectionate, the prospect of fatherhood unlocking vulnerability he had kept carefully guarded. Salam continued working through her first trimester, refusing to treat pregnancy as limitation. Her restaurant thrived, her reputation growing, food critics calling Addis Moon one of Tokyo's most innovative dining experiences. Her family celebrated the pregnancy news with traditional blessings and modern excitement. Her mother wept again, but this time with pure joy, the knowledge that her grandchild would grow up with every advantage she had never been able to provide. Takara's organization accepted the news with cautious optimism, understanding that an heir strengthened succession but also created vulnerability. Salam noticed increased security, more guards, tighter protocols. Takara protecting their future with the same ruthless efficiency he brought to eliminating threats. 3 months into pregnancy. On a quiet evening when autumn was giving way to winter, Selam found Takara in their private garden, the space where he had first told her about his mother. She joined him on the stone bench, their familiar positions, facing the koi pond that reflected early stars. "I have been thinking about your mother," Selam said softly. "As have I," Takara admitted, wondering what she would think of all this. "Of you, of our child, of the life we are building." "She would approve," Selam said with certainty. "Because I protect you the way she tried to. Because I see clearly the way she did. Because I love you despite understanding exactly who you are." Takara turned to her, his expression open in the way it only was with her. "I spent 18 years trying to be strong enough that I would never need protection again. Trying to see every threat, eliminate every weakness. And then you walked into my life and said, 'Stay behind me.'" He smiled, genuine and warm. "You taught me that strength is not refusing protection. It is accepting it from someone trustworthy. You protect me by seeing what I miss. I protect you by eliminating what you cannot. Together, we are complete." "Together," Selam agreed, taking his hand, placing it over their growing child. "We protect each other. We see clearly. We build something worth protecting." They sat in peaceful silence, two people forged by loss and responsibility, bound by recognition and choice, transformed by love that accepted both light and shadow. Selam thought about the journey that had brought her here, walking into Mizuki exhausted and desperate, spotting a threat that changed everything, saying "Stay behind me" to the most dangerous man in Tokyo, accepting his offer knowing the cage it represented, learning to trust, to love, to see his humanity beneath the danger, building a partnership that honored both their strengths, creating a life that included her dreams and his protection, her sight and his resources, her family and his organization. Becoming someone who could stand beside Tokyo's most powerful Yakuza heir as equal partner, trusted advisor, beloved wife. The transformation was complete. From struggling chef counting every yen to restaurant owner married to dangerous man who would eliminate any threat to their happiness. From invisible worker to visible partner. From survival to thriving. She had walked into his world to protect him and walked out transformed. The woman who made Tokyo's most dangerous man finally feels safe enough to build a future beyond mere survival. "Stay behind me," Selam said softly. "Call back to that first moment that changed everything." Takara laughed, the sound rare and beautiful. "Always," he replied, "though now we stand together more than behind." "Together," Selam agreed, resting her head on his shoulder as autumn wind rustled through the garden, carrying the scent of approaching winter and distant promise of spring. Together, they would protect their child, build their legacy, honor their pasts while creating their future. Together, they were finally home.